Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti, sorry, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupada Shatarasatashmad, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatarasatashmad, Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatarasatashmad, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatarasatashmad, Srila Bhakti Vigyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatarasatashmad, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai, Nitil Pravishta Mahabhagavat Srila Gokshvadas Babaji Maharaj ki jai, Nitil Pravishta Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai, Nitil Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai, Shri Rupano Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai, Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Patadash Raghunath Shar Goswami Prabhu ki jai, Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki jai, Namachay Shri Hari Ras Thakur ki jai, प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल व्रज मंडल मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय, सर्व अभिष्ट विराट गिरिराज महाराज की जय, श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड की जय, श्री मुन देवी गंगा देवी की जय, श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय, श्री भक्ति देवी की जय, श्री पूर्णमासी योगमाया की जय, श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय, श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय राधिकाय प्रियात्मने श्रीमद्भक्तिवेदान्त नारायणेति नामिने। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनेति नामिने। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः। इतो नृसिंहो परतो नृसिंहो यतो यतो यमि ततो नृसिंहो बहिर्नृसिंहो हृदये नृसिंहो नृसिंहमदिं शरणं प्रपद्ये। कुरुवे गौरचन्द्राय राधिकायै तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तरभक्ताय नमो नमः। यं प्रव्रजन्तमनुपेतमपेतकृत्यं द्वैपायनो विरहकातर आजुहाव पुत्रेति तन्मयतया तरवोऽभिनेदुस्तं सार्वभूतहृदयं मुनिमानतोऽस्मि। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। शृण्वतं स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तन हृदन्तस्थो ह्यभद्राणि विधुनोति सुहृत्सतं। नष्टप्रयेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टकी। तवैवास्मि न जीवामि त्वया विना इति विज्ञाय राधे त्वां नायमां चरणान्तिकं। भक्त्या विहीना अपराधलक्षय क्षिप्ताष्टकामादितराङ्गमध्ये कृपामयि त्वां शरणं प्रपन्ना वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दं। भज श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरि गौर भक्तवृंदम। हरे कृष्णा Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Dandavat pranams Raseshwari Mataji and Rupa Manjali Didi. Dandavat pranams Madhavi Didi. Gargaraji, Indira Mataji, Charu Didi, Vipul, Prajumna Prabhu, Mantramurti Mataji, Hare Krishna. Yes, Rupa Manjari. Hiraṇyakashipu's plan of becoming immortal started off with leaving his pregnant wife unprotected and almost killing himself. He really wanted it bad. Okay, we're gonna be reading about that today, right? I think so, yeah. Alright, so let's see. What did we read in this chapter that we just finished yesterday? Hiraṇyakashipu's reaction after Hiranyaksha's death. When Hiranyaksha was killed by Varahadev, Hiraṇyakashipu was enraged. He blasphemed Vishnu and instructed the demons to persecute the Brahmins and destroy Vedic culture. The demons executed his orders. After performing the death rites of his brother, Hiraṇyakashipu spoke to his afflicted relatives. He said, "Don't lament. Separation is inevitable. The soul is eternal and the body is perishable. Bodily identification results in continued material life." And then he told the story of King Suyagya, who died in battle, and his queens who didn't allow his dead body to be burnt. Then Yamaraj comes in the form of a boy and instructs the queens of Suyagya. So Yamaraj in the form of this boy says, "The Supreme Creator always protects us. The eternal soul is a separate form from the material body and is always invisible. The soul's misidentification leads to bondage and misery. Those who know about the soul do not lament." Then Yamaraj narrates the story of the Kulinga birds. Shall we read from this point on? Yeah, it's only 15 verses. Okay, let's read from that. Let's hear about the Kulinga birds. 50. A hunter captured the female bird. Once there lived a hunter, as if appointed by death personified as the killer of the birds in the forest. Once he saw a pair of Kulinga birds and captured the female bird by his lure. Seeing his wife in danger and being unable to release her, the male bird lamented. He said, "Providence is merciless. What will Providence gain by putting my wife in this awkward position? Let him take me also. My wife is half of my body. What is the use of my living with only half a body? And the baby birds are helpless. How shall I maintain them who haven't developed wings?" The hunter killed the male bird with an arrow as he was lamenting. Then Yamaraj, in the form of this little boy, he concludes, "O foolish women, even if you lament for hundreds of years, your husband will not be alive, and in the meantime, your lives will be finished." Everyone was struck with wonder at the instructions of Yamaraj in the form of a boy. Yamaraj disappeared, and Suyagya's relatives did his funeral ceremony. Hiraṇyakashipu concludes, "Therefore, do not be aggrieved for the loss of body." And then Narad Muni concludes his, this story. He's talking to Yudhishthira Maharaj. So he said, after hearing the instructions, Diti and others forgot their grief. So now Hiranyakashipu's plan to become immortal. Alright. Let me change the font. What's a good font? I like this one. Okay. This chapter describes how Hiranyakashipu performed a severe type of austerity for material benefit, thus causing great distress throughout the universe. Even Lord Brahmā, the chief personality within this universe, became somewhat disturbed and personally went to see why Hiranyakashipu was engaged in such a severe austerity. Hiranyakashipu wanted to become mortal. He wanted not to be conquered by anyone, not to be attacked by old age and disease, and not to be harassed by any opponent. Thus, he wanted to become the absolute ruler of the entire universe. With this desire, he entered the valley of Mandara mountain and began practicing a severe type of austerity and meditation. Wait a second, I just realized this mic is really sensitive and it's probably picking up the songs outside. Let me close my window and turn on my light. Hopefully that helps. Alright, so where was I? So with this desire, he entered the valley of Mandara mountain and began practicing a severe type of austerity and meditation. Seeing Hiranyakashipu engaged in this austerity, the demigods returned to their respective homes. But while Hiranyakashipu was thus engaged, a kind of fire began blazing from his head, disturbing the entire universe and its inhabitants, including the birds, beasts, and demigods. When all the higher and lower planets became too hot to live on, the demigods, being disturbed, left their abodes in the higher planets and went to see Lord Brahmā, praying to him that he curtail this unnecessary heat. The demigods disclosed to Lord Brahmā Hiranyakashipu's ambition to become immortal, overcoming his short duration of life, and to be the master of all the planetary systems, even Dhruvaloka. Upon hearing about the purpose of Hiranyakashipu's austere meditation, Lord Brahmā, accompanied by the great sage Bhrigu and great personalities like Daksha, went to see Hiranyakashipu. He then sprinkled water from his kamandalu, a type of water pot, upon Hiranyakashipu's head. Hiranyakashipu, the king of the Daitas, bowed down before Lord Brahmā, the creator of this universe, offering respectful obeisances again and again and offering prayers. When Lord Brahmā agreed to give him benedictions, he prayed not to be killed by any living entity, not to be killed in any place, covered or uncovered, not to die in the daytime or at night, not to be killed by any weapon, on land or in the air, and not to be killed by any human being, animal, demigod, or any other entity, living or non-living. He further prayed for supremacy over the entire universe, and requested the 8 yogic perfections, such as anima and laghima. Shri Naraduvacha Hiranyakashipu Rajan Ajayam Ajaramaram Atmanam Apratidvandvam Ekarajam Vyaditsata. Narad Muni said to Maharaj Yudhishthir, the demoniac king Hiranyakashipu wanted to be unconquerable and free from old age and dwindling of the body. He wanted to gain all the yogic perfections like anima and laghima, to be deathless, and to be the only king of the entire universe, including Brahmaloka. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Such are the goals of the austerities performed by demons. Hiraṇyakaśipu wanted to receive a benediction from Lord Brahmā so that in the future he would be able to conquer Lord Brahma's abode. Similarly, another demon received the benediction from Lord Shiva, but later wanted to kill Lord Shiva through that same benediction. Thus, self-interested persons by demoniac austerity want to kill even their benedictors, whereas the Vaishnav wants to remain an ever-existing servant of the Lord and never to occupy the posts of the Lord. Through Sayujya Mukti, which is generally demanded by asuras, one merges into the existence of the Lord, but although one sometimes thus achieves the goal of the theory of monism, one falls down again to the struggle in material existence. Satepe mandaradronyam tapa paramadarunam urdva bahur nabho drishti padangushtasritavani. Oh, one thing I just want to do quickly. Just want to make this large there. Okay. In the valley of Mandara hill, Hiraṇyakaśipu began performing his austerities by standing with his toes on the ground, keeping his arms upward and looking toward the sky. This position was extremely difficult, but he accepted it as a means to attain perfection. Jata ditithivireje samvartarka ivam shubhi tamings tapas tapyamane devastanani bhejire. From the hair on Hiraṇyakashipu's head there emanated an effulgent light as brilliant and intolerable as the rays of the sun at the time of dissolution. Seeing the performance of such austere penances, the demigods who had been wandering throughout the planets now returned to their respective homes. Tasya murdna samudbhuta sadhumognis tapomaya tiryag urdvam adolokan pratapar vishvag irita. Because of Hiraṇyakashipu's severe austerities, fire came from his head, and this fire and its smoke spread throughout the sky, encompassing the upper and lower planets, which all became extremely hot. Chakshubhurna dudanvanta sadvipadrishachalabhu nipetu sagrahastara jajvalus jadisho dasha. Because of the power of his severe austerities, all the rivers and oceans were agitated. The surface of the globe, with its mountains and islands, began trembling, and the stars and planets fell. All directions were ablaze. Tena tapta divan taktva brahmalokam yayusura dhatre vigyapayam asur deva deva jagatpate daitendra tapasa tapta devi statung shaknuma. Scorched and extremely disturbed because of Hiraṇyakashipu's severe penances, all the demigods left the planets where they reside and went to the planet of Lord Brahmā, where they informs the Creator as follows. O Lord of the demigods, O Master of the universe, because of the fire emanating from Hiraṇyakashipu's head as a result of his severe austerities, we have become so disturbed that we could not stay on our planets, but have come to you. Sorry, I read that kind of. Anyways. Tasya chopa shamam bhuman videhi yadimanyase lokanayavanankshanti baliharastavadi abhibhu. O great person, chief of the universe, if you think it proper, kindly stop these disturbances meant to destroy everything before all your obedient subjects are annihilated. So I need more desperation in my voice when I read these. Tasyayam kila sankalpas charata dushcharantapa shruyatam kim naviditas tavatapi niveditam. Hiraṇyakāśipu has undertaken a most severe type of austerity. Although his plan is not unknown to you, kindly listen as we submit his intentions. Shishtva characharamidam. Oh wait, I need to take it out. Look at this. Shishtva characharamidam tapo yoga samadhina adhyaste sarvadishnebhya parameshti nijasanam taraham vardamanena tapo yoga samadhina kalatmanushcha nityatvat sadhayeshe tatatmana. The Supreme Person within this universe, Lord Brahma, has gotten his exalted post by dint of severe austerities, mystic power, and trance. Consequently, after creating the universe, he has become the most worshipable demigod within it. Wait a second. Okay. Since I am eternal and time is eternal, I shall endeavor for such austerity, mystic power, and trance for many, many births, and thus I shall occupy the same post occupied by Lord Brahma. I didn't realize at first that this is Hiraṇyakāśipu speaking. Purport. Hiraṇyakāśipu's determination was to occupy the post of Lord Brahma, but this was impossible because Brahma has a long duration of life. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 8.17, Sahasra Yuga Paryantam Ahar Yad Brahmano Vidu. 1,000 yugas equals 1 day of Brahma. The duration of Brahma's life is extremely great, and consequently it was impossible for Hiraṇyakāśipu to occupy that post. Nonetheless, his decision was that since the self, the Atma, and time are both eternal, if he could not occupy that post in one lifetime, he would continue to execute austerities life after life, so that sometime he would be able to do so. Anyate dam vidhasyeham anyata purvamojasa kim anyay kalanirdhutai kalpante vaishnavadibihi. By dint of my severe austerities, I shall reverse the results of pious and impious activities. I shall overturn all the established practices within this world. Even Dhruvaloka will be vanquished at the end of the millennium. Therefore, what is the use of it? I shall prefer to remain in the position of Brahma. My God, reverse all the results of pious and impious activities? Purport. Doesn't get worse than that. My God. Purport. Hiraṇyakāśipu's demoniac determination was explained to Lord Brahma by the demigods, who informed him that Hiraṇyakāśipu wanted to overturn all the established principles. After executing severe austerities, people within this material world are promoted to the heavenly planets. But Hiraṇyakāśipu wanted them to be unhappy, suffering because of the diplomatic feelings of the demigods, even in the heavenly planets. He wanted those who are harassed in this world by material transactions to be unhappy for the same reason, even in the heavenly planets. Indeed, he wanted to introduce such harassment everywhere. One might ask how this would be possible, since the universal order has been established since time immemorial. But Hiraṇyakāśipu was proud to declare that he would be able to do everything by the power of his tapasya. He even wanted to make the Vaishnav's position insecure. These are some of the symptoms of the asuric determination. Iti shushrumanir tapa paramamastita vidat swadantaram yuktam swayam tribhuvaneshwaram. Oh, just seeing what verse are we going to be reading up to 25, right? Yeah. O Lord, we have heard from reliable sources that in order to obtain your post, Hiraṇyakaśipu is now engaged in severe austerity. You are the master of the three worlds. Please, without delay, take whatever steps you deem appropriate. Purport. In the material world, a servant is provided for by the master, but is always planning on how to capture the master's post. There have been many instances of this in history, especially in India during the Mohammedan rule. Many servants, by plans and devices, took over the posts of their masters. It is learned from Chaitanya literature that one big zamindar, Subudhi Rai, kept a Mohammedan boy as a servant. Of course, he treated the boy as his own child, and sometimes, when the boy would steal something, the master would chastise him by striking him with a cane. There was a mark on the boy's back from this chastisement. Later, after that boy had by crooked means become Hussain Shah, the Nawab of Bengal, one day his wife saw the mark on his back and inquired about it. The Nawab replied that in his childhood he had been a servant of Subudhi Rai, who had punished him because of some mischievous activities. Upon hearing this, the Nawab's wife immediately became agitated and requested her husband to kill Subudhi Rai. Nawab Hussain Shah, of course, was very grateful to Subudhi Rai and therefore refused to kill him. But when his wife requested him to turn Subudhi Rai into a Mohammedan, the Nawab agreed. Taking some water from his water pot, he sprinkled it on Subudhi Rai and declared that Subudhi Rai had now become a Mohammedan. The point is that the Nawab had been an ordinary menial servant of Subudhi Rai, but was somehow or other able to occupy the supreme post of Nawab of Bengal. This is the material world. Everyone is trying to become the master through various devices, although everyone is servant of his senses. Following this system, a living entity, although servant of his senses, tries to become master of the whole universe. Hiraṇyakaśipu was a typical example of this, and Brahma was informed by the demigods of his intentions. I never knew that whole history. I mean, I knew about Subudhi Rai becoming, but I didn't know the whole backstory to that. Tavasanam dujagavam paramishtam jagatpate bhavaya shreyase bhutyai kshemaya vijayaya cha. O Lord Brahma, your position within this universe is certainly most auspicious for everyone, especially the cows and Brahmins. Brahminical culture and the protection of cows can be increasingly glorified, and thus all kinds of material happiness, opulence, and good fortune will automatically increase. But unfortunately, if Hiraṇyakaśipu occupies your seat, everything will be lost. Purport. In this verse, the words Dvija Gabam Parameshtam indicate the most exalted position of the Brahmins, Brahminical culture, and the cows. In Vedic culture, the welfare of the cows and the welfare of the Brahmins are essential. Without a proper arrangement for developing Brahminical culture and protecting cows, all the affairs of administration will go to hell. Being afraid that Hiraṇyakaśipu would occupy the post of Brahma, all the demigods were extremely disturbed. Hiraṇyakaśipu was a well-known demon, and the demigods knew that if the demons and Rakshasas were to occupy the supreme post, Brahminical culture and protection of cows would come to an end. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 5.29, the original proprietor of everything is Lord Krishna, Bhoktaram Yagatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. The Lord, therefore, knows particularly well how to develop the material condition of the living entities within this material world. In every universe, there is one Brahma engaged on behalf of Lord Krishna, as confirmed in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Teni Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye. The principal creator in each Brahmanda is Lord Brahmā, who imparts Vedic knowledge to his disciples and sons. On every planet, the king or supreme controller must be a representative of Brahma. Therefore, if a Rakshasa, or a demon, were situated in Brahma's post, then the entire arrangement of the universe, especially the protection of the Brahminical culture and cows, would be ruined. All the demigods anticipated this danger, and therefore they went to request Lord Brahma to take immediate steps to thwart Hiranyakashipu's plan. In the beginning of creation, Lord Brahma was attacked by two demons, Madhu and Kaitaba, but Krishna saved him. Therefore, Krishna is addressed as Madhu Kaitaba Hantri. Now, again, Hiranyakashipu was trying to replace Brahma. The material world is so situated that even the position of Lord Brahma, not to speak of ordinary living entities, is sometimes in danger. Nonetheless, until the time of Hiranyakashipu, no one had tried to replace Lord Brahma. Hiranyakashipu, however, was such a great demon that he maintains this ambition. The word bhutyaya means for increasing opulence, and the word shreyase refers to ultimately returning home back to Godhead. In spiritual advancement, one's material position improves the time that the path of liberation becomes clear, and one is freed from material bondage. If one is situated in an opulent and spiritual advancement, his opulence never decreases. Therefore, such a spiritual benediction is called bhuti or vibhuti. Krishna confirms this in Bhagavad Gita 10:41. Yad yad vibhutimat. Yad vibhutimat sattvam mama tejoksa sambhavam. If a devotee advances in spiritual consciousness and thus becomes materially opulent also, his position is a special gift from the Lord. Such opulence is never to be considered material. At the present, especially on this planet Earth, the influence of Lord Brahma has decreased considerably, and the representatives of Hiranyakashipu, the Rakshasas and demons, have taken charge. Therefore, there is no protection of Brahminical culture and cows, which are the basic prerequisites for all kinds of good fortune. This age is very dangerous because society is being managed by demons and Rakshasas. Iti vigyapito devar Bhagavan atma bhur nripa Varito bhrigudakshadar Yayo daiteshvarashramam. O king, being thus informed by the demigods, the most powerful Lord Brahma, accompanied by Daksha and other great ladies, immediately started off for the place where Hiranyakashipu was performing his penances and austerities. Purport. Lord Brahma was waiting for the austerities performed by Hiranyakashipu to mature, so that he could go there and offer benedictions according to Hiranyakashipu's desire. Now, taking the opportunity of being accompanied by all the demigods and great saintly persons, Brahma went there to award him the benediction he desired. Na dadarsha pratichanam valmika trenakichakai pipilika bhirachirnam medhastvang mankshashonitam tapantam tapasalokan yathabra pihitam ravim vilaksha vismita praha hasangstam hangsavahana. Lord Brahma, who was carried by a swan airplane, at first could not see where Hiranyakashipu was, for Hiranyakashipu's body was covered by an anthill and by grass and bamboo sticks. Because Hiranyakashipu had been there for a long time, the ants had devoured his skin, fat, flesh, and blood. Oh my God. Then Lord Brahma and the demigods spotted him, resembling a cloud-covered sun, heating the world by his austerity. Struck with wonder, Lord Brahma began to smile and then addressed him as follows. Purport. Sorry, 1 second. The living entity can live merely by his own power, without the help of skin, marrow, bone, blood, and so on, because it is said, Asango yam purusha. The living entity has nothing to do with the material covering. Hiraṇyakāśipu performed a severe type of tapasya, austerity, for many long years. Indeed, it is said that he performed the tapasya for 100 heavenly years. Since 1 day of a demigod equals 6 of our months, certainly this was a very long time. By nature's own way, his body had been almost consumed by earthworms, ants, and other parasites, and therefore even Brahma was at first unable to see him. Later, however, Brahma could ascertain where Hiraṇyakāśipu was, and Brahma was struck with wonder to see Hiraṇyakāśipu's extraordinary power to execute tapasya. Anyone would conclude that Hiraṇyakāśipu was dead because his body was covered in so many ways. But Lord Brahma, the supreme living being in this universe, could understand Hiraṇyakāśipu was alive, but covered by material elements. It is also to be noted that although Hiraṇyakāśipu performed this austerity for a long, long time, he was nonetheless known as a Daita and Rakshasa. It will be seen from verses to follow that even great saintly persons could not perform such a severe type of austerity. Why then was he called a Rakshasa and a Daita? It is because whatever he did was for his own sense gratification. His son Prahlad Maharaj was only 5 years old, and so what could Prahlad do? Yet simply by performing a little devotional service according to the instructions of Narad Muni, Prahlad became so dear to the Lord that the Lord came to save him, whereas Hiraṇyakāśipu, in spite of all his austerities, was killed. This is the difference between devotional service and all other methods of perfection. One who performs severe austerities for sense gratification is fearful to the entire world, whereas a devotee who performs even a slight amount of devotional service is a friend to everyone, suhridam sarvabhutanam. Since the Lord is the well-wisher of every living entity, and since a devotee assumes the qualities of the Lord, a devotee also acts for everyone's good fortune by performing devotional service. Thus, although Hiraṇyakāśipu performed such a severe austerity, he remained a Daita and a Rakshasa, whereas Prahlad Maharaj, although born of the same Daita father, became the most exalted devotee and was personally protected by the Supreme Lord. Bhakti is therefore called Sarvopadi Vinir Muktam, indicating that a devotee is freed from all material designations, and Anyabhilashita Shunyam, situated in a transcendental position, free from all material desires. Just letting you know why I skipped this. This isn't actually in the book. This website that I'm using, Prabhupada Books, they do that sometimes. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Uttishta Tishta Bhadram Te Tapasiddho Kaśyapa Varadoham Anuprapto Vriyatam Ipsito Vara. Lord Brahma said, O son of Kaśyapa Muni, please get up, please get up. All good fortune unto you. You are now perfect in the performance of your austerities, and therefore I may give you a benediction. You may now ask from me whatever you desire, and I shall try to fulfill your wish. Purport. Srila Madhvacharya quotes from the Skanda Puran, which says that Hiraṇyakāśipu, having become a devotee of Lord Brahma, who is now known as Hiranyagarbha, and having undergone a severe austerity to please him, is also known as Hiranyaka. Okay. Rakshasas and demons worship various demigods, such as Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, just to take the post of these demigods. This we have already explained in previous verses. Adraksham aham etam te hritsaram mahararbhutam dangsha bhakshita dehasya pranahyastishu sherate. I have been very much astonished to see your endurance. In spite of being eaten and bitten by all kinds of worms and ants, you are keeping your life air circulating within your bones. Certainly, this is wonderful. Purport. It appears that the soul can exist even though the bones are shown by the personal example of Hiraṇyakāśipu. even through the bones, as shown by personal example of Hiraṇyakaśipu. When great yogis are in samadhi, even when their bodies are buried and their skin is marrow, blood, and so on have all been eaten, if only their bones remain, they can exist in a transcendental position. Very recently, an archaeologist published findings indicating that Lord Christ, after being buried, was exhumed. What's exhumed mean? Was dug out. Okay, so he was dug out out of the ground, and that he went to Kashmir. There have been many actual examples of yogis being buried in trance and exhumed alive and in good condition several hours later. A yogi can keep himself alive in his transcendental state even if buried, not only for many days, but for many years. Naitat purvarshayas chakrur na karishyanti chapare nirambur dharayet pranan ko vaidevya samashatam. Even saintly persons like Phrigu, born previously, could not perform such severe austerities, nor will anyone in the future be able to do so. Who within these three worlds can sustain his life without even drinking water for 100 celestial years? Purport. It appears that even if a yogi does not drink a drop of water, he can live for many, many years by the yogic process, though his outer body be eaten by ants and moths. Vyavasayena tenena dushkarena manasvinam taponishtena bhavata jitoham titinandana. My dear son of Diti, with your great determination and austerity, you have done what was impossible even for great saintly persons, and thus I have certainly been conquered by you. Purport. In regard to the word jita, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Muni gives the following quotation from the Shabda Nirnay. Parabhutam vashastam cha jitabir uchyate budhai. If one comes under someone else's control or is defeated by another, he is called jita. Hiraṇyakashipu's austerity was so great and wonderful that even Lord Brahmā agreed to be conquered by him. Tatasta ashisha sarva datamyasura pungava martasya te hyamat amartasya darshanam na phalam mama. O best of the Asuras, for this reason I am now prepared to give you all benedictions according to your desire. I belong to the celestial world of demigods, who do not die like human beings. Therefore, although you are subject to death, your audience with me will not go in vain. Purport. It appears that human beings and asuras are subject to death, whereas demigods are not. The demigods who reside with Lord Brahmā in Satyaloka go to Vaikuntha-loka in their present bodily constructions at the time of the dissolution. Therefore, although Hiraṇyakashipu had undergone severe austerities, Lord Brahmā predicted that he had to die. He could not become immortal or even gain equal status with the demigods. The great austerities and penances he had performed for so many years could not give him protection from death. This is foretold by Lord Brahmā. Shri Naradu Vacha Ittuvaktva bhavo devo Vakshitangam papilikai Kamandalu jale nokshar Divyena mokharadhasaha. Shri Narad Muni continued. After speaking these words to Hiraṇyakashipu, Lord Brahmā, the original being of this universe, who is extremely powerful, sprinkled transcendental, infallible, spiritual water from his kamandalu upon Hiraṇyakashipu's body, which had been eaten away by ants and moths. Thus he enlivened Hiraṇyakashipu. Purport. Lord Brahma is the first created being within this universe and is empowered by the Supreme Lord to create. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye. The Adidev, or the Adi Kavi, the first living creature, was personally taught by the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the heart. There was no one to teach him, but since the Lord is situated within Brahma's heart, Brahma was educated by the Lord himself. Lord Brahma, being especially empowered, is infallible in doing whatever he wants. This is the meaning of the word Amogha Ratasa. He desired to restore Hiraṇyakashipu's original body, and therefore, by sprinkling transcendental water from his water pot, he immediately did so. Satat ki chakavil valmikat saha oja balanvita sarvavayava sampanno vajra sanghannano yuva uttitas taptakemabo vibhavasur ivaidhasaha. As soon as he was sprinkled with the water from Lord Brahma's water pot, Hiraṇyakashipu arose, endowed with a full body with limbs so strong that they could bear the striking of a thunderbolt. With physical strength and a bodily luster resembling molten gold, he emerged from the anthill, a completely young man, just as fire springs from fuel wood. Purport. Hiraṇyakashipu was revitalized, so much so that his body was quite competent to tolerate the striking of thunderbolts. He was now a young man with a strong body and a very beautiful bodily luster resembling molten gold. This is the rejuvenation that took place because of a severe austerity and penance. Sanirikshambare devam hangsavaham upasitam nanama shirasa bhumo tadarshana mahotsava. Seeing Lord Brahma present before him in the sky, carried by his swan airplane, Hiraṇyakashipu was extremely pleased. He immediately fell flat with his head on the ground and began to express his obligation to the Lord. Purport. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 9:23-24, Ye pyanya devata bhakta yajante shraddhayanvita te pimam eva konteya yajanta vidi purvakam aham hi sarva yajnanam bhukta cha prabhureva cha natumam abhijananti tatvenatas chavantite. Whatever a man may sacrifice to other gods, O son of Kunti, is really meant for me alone, but it is offered with true understanding. I am the only enjoyer and the only object of sacrifice. Those who do not recognize my true transcendental nature fall down. In effect, Krishna says, persons engaged in the worship of the demigods are not very intelligent, although such worship is indirectly offered to me. For example, when a man pours water on the leaves and branches of a tree without pouring water on the root, he does so without sufficient knowledge or without observing regulative principles. The process of watering a tree is to pour water on the root. Similarly, the process of rendering service to different parts of the body is to supply food to the stomach. So to speak, different officers and directors in the Lord. One has to follow the laws made by the government, not by the officers or directors. Similarly, everyone is to offer his worship to the Supreme Lord only. That will automatically satisfy all the different officers and the Lord. The officers and directors are engaged as representatives of the government, and to offer a bribe to the officers and directors is illegal. In Bhagavad Gita as avidhi purvakam. In other words, Krishna does not approve of unnecessary worship of the demigods. In Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly stated that there are many types of yajna performances recommended in the Vedic literatures, but actually all of them are meant for satisfying the Supreme Lord. Yajna means Vishnu. In the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly stated that one should work only for satisfying Yajna, or Vishnu. The perfectional form of human civilization, known as Varnashram Dharma, is specifically meant for satisfying Vishnu. Therefore, Krishna says, I am the enjoyer of all sacrifices because I am the Supreme Master. However, less intelligent persons, without knowing this fact, worship demigods for temporary benefit. Therefore, they fall down to the material existence and do not achieve the desired goal of life. If, however, anyone has any material desire to be fulfilled, he had better pray for it to the Supreme Lord, although that is not pure devotion, and he'll thus achieve the desired results. Although Hiraṇyakaśipu offered his obeisances to Lord Brahmā, he was strongly inimical to Lord Vishnu. This is a symptom of an asura. Asuras worship the demigods as being separate from the Lord, not knowing that all the demigods are powerful because of being the servants of the Lord. If the Supreme Lord were to withdraw the powers of the demigods, the demons would no longer be able to offer benedictions for their they would no longer be able to offer benedictions to their worshippers. The difference between a devotee and a non-devotee, or an asura, is that a devotee knows that Lord Vishnu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that everyone derives power from him. Without worshipping the demigods for particular powers, a devotee worships Lord Vishnu, knowing that if he desires a particular power, he can get that power while acting as Lord Vishnu's devotee. Therefore, the Shastra, Bhagavad Gita 2.3.10, is recommended. Akama sarva kama va moksha kama udaradi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. A person who has broader intelligence, whether he be full of material desires, free from material desires, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the Supreme Whole, the Personality of Godhead. Even if a person has material desires, instead of worshipping the demigods, he should pray to the Supreme Lord so that his connection with the Supreme Lord will be established and he will be saved from becoming a demon or a non-devotee. In this regard, Śrīla Madhvacharya gives the following quotation from the Brahma Tarka. Ekasthana ekakaryattvar Vishnu pradhanyatastata Jivasya tad adhinatvan navinadhikritan vacha. Since Vishnu is the Supreme, by worshipping Vishnu, one can fulfill all one's desires. There is no need to divert one's attention to any demigod. Uttaya pranjali prava ikshamana drisha vibhum harshvashru pulako bhedo girikarkadaya grinat. Then getting up from the ground and seeing Lord Brahmā before him, the head of the Daitas was overwhelmed by jubilation. With tears in his eyes, his whole body shivering, he began praying in a humble mood, with folded hands and a faltering voice, to satisfy Lord Brahmā. So we'll hear his prayer tomorrow. Right? Because we're reading up to 25. All right. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol. जय श्री श्री गुरु गौरांग गंधाविक गिरिधारी श्री श्री राधा विनोद बिहारी जू की जय, श्री गोविंद गोपीनाथ मरन मोहन जू की जय, नितिल विष्णु विष्णुपाद अशुतर शतस्मर शिल भक्ति विरांत नारायण गोसाई महाराज शिल गुरुदेव की जय, नितिल विष्णु विष्णुपाद अशुतर शतस्मर शिल भक्ति विरांत वामन गोसाई महाराज की जय, नितिल विष्णु विष्णुपाद अशुतर शतस्मर शिल भक्ति विरांत स्वामी महाराज शिल प्रभुपाद की जय, नितिल विष्णु विष्णुपाद अशुतर शतस्मर शिल भक्ति प्रज्ञान केशव गोसाई महाराज की जय, नितिल विष्णु विष्णुपाद अशुतर शतस्मर शिल भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोसाई प्रभुपाद की जय, नितिल विष्णु महाभागवत शिल गोक्षरदास बाबूजी महाराज की जय, नितिल विष्णु शिल सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय, नितिल विष्णु वैष्णव सार्वभौम शिल जगन्नाथ दास बाबूजी महाराज की जय, श्री रूपनुक कोरिया गुरु वर्ग की जय, श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ शार गोसाई प्रभु की जय, श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रामानंदारी श्री गौर प्रसाद वृंद की जय, नाम श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय, प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, गिरिराज महाराज की जय, श्री राधा कुंद श्याम कुंद की जय, श्री मुन देवी गंगा देवी की जय, श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय, श्री भक्ति देवी की जय, श्री पूर्णमासी योग माय की जय, श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय, श्री भक्ति विघ्न विनाशंकारी श्री नृसिंह भगवान की जय, भक्त प्रवर श्री पलार महाराज की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, श्रीनिताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि गो, ग्रंथराज श्रीमद्-भागवतम की जय, वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशवाय कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदेवी सत्यवताय नमो नमः, वंशा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। Dandavad pranams, Hari Bol. See you all tomorrow. Yeah, the demigod's not subject to death. I didn't understand that either, Prajumna Prabhu, but it might just be that they don't go through the process of, like, they fall down to this material world, but they don't have to go through the whole process of dying. Maybe that's what it means. You know, like having, yeah, they just come down to the material world, but they're not like, I don't know. And also they live for practically forever, you know, they live for such a long time. But yeah, that's just my guess. Alright, Dandavad pranams everybody. See you tomorrow. Sorry for being so sleepy during today's reading. Alright, people.